Everyone has issues with procrastinating, myself included. The gurus tell you to just start. Now, this isn't terrible advice. A problem most of us have is that we get analysis paralysis. You just keep thinking about all the things you should do. You make a plan in your head, you break down all the little details, you see yourself a few years from now after you've been consistent, but you're thinking about all this before you've even started doing anything. Sound familiar? We all have something we think about doing. Now, the advice to just start seems like it should be the obvious answer to this problem of overanalyzing and not taking action. I've personally found myself in this situation more times than I can count. I've done this with losing weight, I've done this with gaining weight, I've done this with saving and investing, I've done this with side hustles, hobbies. I've even done this with quitting nicotine. This problem of not starting used to be a big deal for me, but the biggest problem was when I would start, or rather, the problems would start right after I got to work. The reason the just start advice doesn't typically work is because we just start during these fleeting moments of intense motivation. It's when we're feeling our absolute worst. It's when we are our most self conscious, our most scared, our most angry, whatever it is. But the problem is, these emotions, they come and go quickly. And even if the emotions are always there, the intensity tends to spike up and then we mellow out. And the problem is, when we start working on things that we know we need to be doing during these like highly emotional spikes, then once we mellow out, it's almost like a come down where we kind of don't have that same fire that we had when we first started. And the reasons why we started in the first place aren't that clear to us anymore. We don't really have that intense, like driving factor, that really strong emotion that got us started in the first place. It's not keeping us going anymore. So there's a trick that has been working pretty well for me lately. It's actually the reason why you are watching this video right now. It's the reason why it's almost midnight and I'm sitting up recording this instead of going to bed. And the trick is meditation. Yep, meditation. And I'm not talking about the kind of meditation where you're sitting in silence, cross legged, you know, fingers like this, humming to yourself. When I mean meditation, I mean just putting your phone away, just cutting out all the distractions, and just kind of going deep with yourself. Just figuring out, okay, what is it that I want to do? Is it losing weight? Is it going to the gym? Is it quitting an addiction? Is it starting, a new hobby? Is it starting some, side hustle? Is it going out and meeting people, right? Whatever it is that you tell yourself that you need to do that you have trouble just starting, or you've tried starting in the past and you just, for whatever reason, you keep stopping. Um, really like be alone with yourself for as long as it takes and just try and be honest with yourself. Like the biggest part of this is you need to really be honest with yourself. And it's hard to do even when you're alone and it's just you and your thoughts. It's really, really hard to open up to yourself sometimes. That's kind of why we even have an ego, right? Our ego is there to protect us, basically protect us from ourselves. And sometimes this gets in the way. So I implore you, it's going to maybe take a couple tries, but you got to be honest with yourself and you need to cut out all the distractions so you can really just be laser focused on basically figuring out your why. And I know that that's like a very cliche term. Oh, figure out your why. Why are you doing this? Figure out your why, blah, blah, blah. Um, but it's true. You need to figure out what the real reason is. And, a lot of us have similar things that we're all trying to do, right? At the end of the day, we all could afford to go to the gym more often, right? We could be in better shape. We could be eating healthier. We could be saving more money. We could be, cutting out addictions. We could be working on our relationships, even whether that's finding new friendships or dealing with issues that we're having with our partner, whatever it is. There's always something, right? Everyone's got something, and a lot of the time it's things that other people are also dealing with. I'll give an example for myself. The easiest one for me would probably be losing weight. And I've tried to work out, eat healthier, lose weight many, many times in my life. My weight fluctuated a lot when I was a kid. There'd be years where I'd go to school and I'd be, kind of chubby, and then there were years where I'd be, rail thin. And I'm finally at a place. Or I just turned 30 years old, and I'm at a spot now where I finally feel like I've kind of found some sort of equilibrium here. And maybe we'll talk about this in another video. Oh God, this is so weird. This is so weird recording myself. I would say the first time it really stuck with me was years ago. I was dating a girl from, starting in high school, and then that went through college. And it was kind of my first real relationship, and we had this big falling out, and I was super pissed off about it, and then, I was really upset, really sad, kind of depressed. And then after that, I kind of had this moment of clarity where I was reflecting back on the relationship, and I was reflecting back specifically on my role in the relationship, and it occurred to me that I had been pretty nasty. I had been saying things that were putting her down, I was just acting like a total asshole, really, to this person who I really cared a lot about. And it took months after this breakup for me to even realize this. And it was pretty hard for me to admit that to myself. But anyway, I'm really getting sidetracked here. So after this breakup had run its course and I was reflecting back, I realized, okay, I don't feel great about myself. And then it took me a little bit more time to figure out what exactly it was that I was not liking about myself that caused me to do that. And it didn't take too long, I guess, for me to realize that the girl that I had been dating was an athlete. She's an athlete in high school, she was an athlete in college. And when she was in college, she was around all these guys who were like jocks, right? They were like the cool guys. They were on sport teams. Just imagine your typical sports guy, and I was not that guy. I had done sports in high school, but it was like cross country and tennis. Not like the cool stuff like baseball, football, lacrosse, all that. And when I got to school, the freshman 15 was a real thing for me. I put on a bunch of weight. I wasn't exercising, and even other parts of my life were slipping too. Like I wasn't really going to class. I wasn't doing my work. I let my grades slip, and it just kind of, I guess, was a lot at once. And I was sort of lashing out on this girl. Relationship kind of exploded. It was well deserved. And then I realized, when I went back and I kind of reflected and I realized that I was having these issues, it really came down to just self image, right? It came down to I'm not in very good shape. I let myself go. And this girl who I really care about, she's around these other guys that have their shit together. That was probably the turning point for me when it came to my fitness journey, really, I guess if you could call it that. That was when I really started taking my health and my fitness seriously for the first time. And I stuck with it because I told myself, I had to go deep to get to this point, but I told myself, okay, this is something I've dealt with throughout my life, and I started letting it hurt other people. I will not let this happen again, and I need to put in the work so that way if I ever get a chance to see this girl again, she'll be able to look at me and know that I am a different person. It almost wasn't even challenging for me to start eating less, eating healthier, going to the gym regularly because I had this in the back of my mind, okay, this is the reason why I really want to do these things. It's not because people tell me that I need to be doing it, right? The doctor's telling me, oh, I got to lose weight, so I'm going to do it because of that. I'm not even really doing it because of vanity, which it kind of is at the end of the day, right? I'm self-conscious about how I look, so it kind of is a vanity thing, but really in this case it was like I'm my issues are starting to bleed out into the rest of my life, and yeah, I can't have that. That's one example, and then I guess another thing would be right this YouTube channel. The reason why you're here, the reason why I'm here. I have tried in the past to kind of break out of the mold a little bit. The whole 9 to 5, escape the matrix type of thing. And I'm an engineer by trade. I went to school for engineering and I thought, oh, it's going to be great. I'm going to do some really impactful things. I'm going to change the world and I'm going to make good money in the process. And then you kind of get there and you're like, okay, the money's good. It's not amazing, right? I mean, for the average person, it's pretty great, I think. But, you just start living life, you get exposed to things and you realize there's a whole lot more out there on that front. And then from the engineering side, it's like, well, I'm not really, I'm kind of a tiny cog in a big machine here. And it's not quite what I had expected, I guess, when I set out to be an engineer going to school. I've tried working for startups, and kind of a similar issue as I have had with every single job is that I just can't stay motivated to work for someone else. I mean, no matter how small the team is, no matter how great the organization is, no matter what the mission is, it's like at the end of the day, I find it very hard for me to work hard when there's not a direct incentive for me. I know that's not a very unique mindset, I guess. A lot of people feel that way. I know not everyone feels that way because my wife is an engineer as well, and she is amazing. She's amazing in a lot of ways, but she's amazing because she cares. She really cares, and she puts in that extra effort. I've tried starting a business before. Well, I tried starting like a tech startup. I'll talk a little bit about that in another video. But, after that didn't work out, I kind of told myself, well, I'll find something else. I'll try something else. And then so much time went by and I wasn't really starting anything else. And I kind of kept telling myself, I need to start something. I need to start something. I mean, partly it's financially motivated, of course, right? We all want our time to be valued in some way. But when I dug deep down and I finally found the thing that it was that I needed to hear from myself, basically, to actually start doing this stuff and uh, and keep it going consistently, wasn't that I wanted to be some, you know, tech savant. I didn't want to be some business mogul necessarily. I just needed something that I could build myself, something that I could create myself, that I could basically be proud of. And I honestly always hated content creators. I thought that creating content was just like the lowest form of self-employment, basically, short of being like a hooker. Um, but I've changed my mind on that. Obviously, I'm here now trying my hand at it, and I gotta say, it's a much different experience than I thought it was gonna be. It's something that's super easy to get going, and I see other small creators doing well and gaining a following, and how they talk about you got to trust the process, you got to be consistent, this and that. And I told myself, look, YouTube is something that you can just start easily. It's cheap. You can start it today. Millions of people do it. And the great thing about YouTube really is that, people complain about the algorithm, but at the end of the day, the algorithm is trying to find an audience for you, right? I'm making this content. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no plan. I thought to myself, maybe I want to be, I want to provide some kind of like life advice. I could do, financial, I could do health and fitness, I could do relationship because, who the hell am I, right? What's my qualification for any of this stuff? But I look at myself and I try to be objective and I think, okay, maybe I'm slightly above average in a bunch of different things. And maybe that's all some people really need. I look at people who, even going back to the small YouTube channels, right? The small content creators, by a lot of metrics, they're probably not successful, I guess. That, it's like if you have someone with 20,000 subscribers or even less, I've seen videos of people with 5,000 subscribers and like 20,000 views talking about, oh, this is how I grew my small YouTube channel. It's like I still watch the video. I still gain some insights from them, right? You don't have to be Mr. Beast to provide valuable YouTube advice, right? Just like you don't have to be a world-class bodybuilder to give lifting advice. You don't have to be a health coach to give, health advice. You don't have to be super rich or, working in finance to give, well, not financial advice, but you know what I mean. Relationship advice, right? What makes anyone a relationship expert? You might have therapists who go to school for, some degree, right? That maybe on paper they're qualified, but I would say honestly, I remember hearing it was a book or a podcast or something from a divorce attorney who was giving relationship advice, and actually that sounds like probably the most qualified person is someone who watches relationships basically fall apart all the time, every day. So I don't really know what I'm doing, but the YouTube algorithm is going to try and figure that out for me. It's going to try and figure out who my audience is, and it's going to keep pushing my content, ideally. And it'd be great to just get that ball rolling and just see a little bit of progress because, as many of you probably know, the beginning is always the hardest, right? Going from 0 to 1 is the hardest thing with pretty much anything that you do in life. And so I'm just looking to get that first step. I'm just looking to get that first subscriber, basically. And that'll just, that the energy is just gonna, my energy is gonna be through the roof when that happens. Anyway, I honestly have no idea if I'm going to use this, but I wanted to get a little bit more comfortable in front of the camera, even though this is a crappy, low quality webcam, terrible lighting, terrible resolution, doesn't even match the screen. I just showered, whatever. I look awful right now, and actually, I'm not even looking at myself in the stream preview, so I could be out of frame. But anyway, just got to get comfortable with this stuff. Even in the first 3 or 4 videos that I've made, I've learned a heck of a lot. And, it's been a fun process so far. I'm trying to really appreciate the process because if you can figure out how to like the process, then it makes the work a lot easier, makes the time go by easier, and greatly increases your chances of success with everything, right? So that's it. Really went off the rails here. Probably gonna delete this video after, or delete this footage, and I don't know. Maybe I'll use the audio. I don't know if I'm gonna use the video. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far, thanks again, and I hope to see you on the next one.